So in introducing Lieutenant General Coyle, I'll simply reprise my introduction of her not that long ago, where she was kind enough to come down to Melbourne and speak at a luncheon of military veterans who are also members of the Melbourne Cricket Club. We run 3 of those luncheons a year, and we don't always have a speaker of the calibre of Lieutenant General Coyle, but we were lucky in March that we did. General Coyle is coming to the role now well entrenched, I think, as the Chief of Joint Capabilities, but with a long and extremely varied career experience in the ADF. I'm pleased to say, given this conference, that she started off as a reservist, which some of you may not know, and not only that, a reservist in 12th, 16th Hunter River Lancers. Sadly, back in those days, when General Coyle decided to go full-time, it wasn't open to women to serve in Armoured Corps. So Armoured Corps' loss was the Royal Australian Signals Corps' gain, and she went on for a stellar career after that, doing many, many things, commanding at every level. And I took over from General Coyle in Kabul in 2015. And that for me was a lesson in how she managed that command, and we were in that period of transition from slipper to high road. And of course, the task group at that stage was a very significant combination of both permanent force people and also reservists. And she dealt with both groups equally well and with aplomb, and I got a great handover, and it's been wonderful to see her progression since. And I can think of no better person, given her background, to head up these exciting new areas, in particular of cyber and space, and the contribution that our reserve component can hopefully make to those. So, General Coyle, thank you for being here.
I'd probably just start off by saying that the reserve community is making inside our space already. Hey, good morning everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to come and chat. It's a really important environment for me to be given such a privileged platform to talk to you because, and it goes without saying, and I'm sure that everyone else has already said this to you, but without the reserve community, we don't have a defence force. And certainly inside my group, there's just under 10,000 people. 5,000 are actually contractors because we own Joint Logistics Command as well, so I wear multiple hats, which I'll talk about in a moment. But of the other half, just under half of that half are reservists. And some of them are doing CFTS, some are doing reserve days, some are doing short days, some are doing long commitments and have done for some time. But I much value our reserve members. You are absolutely a critical part as we all of us together make up our Defence Force, contractors, ADF and APS. And we don't differentiate in our workforce between reservist and full-time because we're all together, and I can't tell the difference, to be honest. I wouldn't know if someone's working days or the whole year. I see people everywhere all of the time contributing, and it's a really powerful part. And I'm really proud to start off as a digger. I had a great time at 1216. It is an awesome unit, and I would have gone Armoured Corps. Tim? Where are you, Tim? I would have gone Armoured Corps, compete for you for jobs, but alas, I had the privilege of being a SIG, and that was just incredible. And I went into a mech brigade when they used to have them in those days. But today I'm going to talk to you about 2 very important domains that are absolutely central to warfighting, those being space and cyber. The question that I would pose to you all, particularly as the recommendations of your strategic review unfold into the ADF reserves, is how do we ensure that our space and cyber reservists are equipped, empowered and fully integrated in our workforce? Now, I would love you to tell me, you're doing it already, but I know we're not, or not enough. We're doing it in parts, we're doing it in places, but we now need to do it across the entire enterprise, not just in pockets of our organisation. So, as I said before, I will say it again because it is important. Without reservists, we don't have a defence force. As a result of the National Defence Strategy, our Joint Capabilities Group got a massive change in focus and direction, and it's probably, if I'm being honest, the best thing that ever happened to us. We used to be what I call colloquially a bag of elbows. We had a little bit of everything. We had Australian Defence College, we had Joint Health Command, we had the Australian Civil Military Centre, we had this thing called Information Warfare Division, which I was privileged to be the head of a couple of postings ago. We had all of these capabilities, joint capabilities, and it was just a bit of a hodgepodge. So Joint Capabilities Group as a name, I see it as a deception campaign for the Chinese. They have no clue what it is, neither does anyone in the ADF. But as the NDS and the DSR came out, we started to get traction. And so I wear two hats but three major jobs. So I'm the Chief of Space and Cyber, and I'm the Chief of National Support. And you couldn't get two more polarised different jobs and roles to do, but they're both really critical to what we do. So you think of everything from 2 of the 5 warfighting domains to fuel resilience and uplifting the Defence Logistics Network to be able to sustain protracted combat operations. Phenomenal roles, phenomenal people that I work with, and I feel very blessed to be in the role. I've been in the job since July last year. It's a 4-year appointment, which gives you a really good amount of meat to get into making some positive changes and supporting great people to get after things that they want to achieve. But, you know, it goes without saying that the threats in our environment, and I know this is at the official level, so I'll keep it to that level, but our threats are known. Our capabilities, as a result, have to be more lethal and more survivable, and you can't do that if you just focus on the 3 traditional warfighting domains. And so getting that message out about the importance of space and cyber, not as a either or, but as an end, is really important. And I feel that we're starting to get that traction. And Pat Delgaitis, who's in the front row, we've worked together in Information Warfare Division, a space professional. He can talk to this a lot more in more detail today when I leave. But, you know, if we don't do it as part of an integrated force, we will not win. So in the functional commands across my group, I actually have 8 2-stars. That's always the first thing that I cop from people. Why do you have so many 2-stars? Well, those 2-stars are functional commanders, and they all have similar roles to what the service chiefs' environments have. So I have the equivalent of a head land capability. He's called Head of Space and Cyber Capabilities. I have the equivalent of the Forces Commander. That person is Commander Cyber Command or Commander Space Command. I have the equivalent of like Future Land Warfare. So we have all of these different people across our organisation, whether it be in Military Strategic Effects, the Australian Signals Directorate, Joint Logistics Command, National Support Division, Joint Training Command, doing amazing things. I colloquially say that we're led by a constellation of stars, admirals and air vice marshals, but I'm learning that that's becoming a heat-seeking missile where everyone's trying to get resources. So I'm now downplaying what they do. I don't have many 2-stars doing great work. But it takes all of those people to do the roles that we do. From a cyber perspective, we own Cyber Operations Division, think network provisioning of our entire organisation, both enterprise and warfighting. That is done by an amazing team, mostly out at HMAS Harmon, and they are protecting and defending our systems so that our weapons platforms, our mission systems and our networks will operate when and where we need them to. Amazing, incredible, talented people, contractors, ADF and APS. So I said before today that we've got this acknowledgement of the 5 warfighting domains. I can't say it enough, 5 warfighting domains. Technically, I'm not allowed to call space a warfighting domain yet. We're working on it. CDF said it, I'm saying it. But the reality is, if you have to protect and defend it, it's a warfighting domain. And you've only got to watch the news. I don't even have to give you a classified briefing to know what's happening up there above 100 kilometres. And it is very real, and it'll impact your everyday, both as family members living in Australia or internationally, but equally and most importantly for me, as a warfighting organisation. Our defence strategy is quite rightly demanding, and it should be, and our warfighters have to be equipped to meet what we know is going to be required going forward. For me, leadership is critical. Our people are our capability, our people are our edge, and leaders at every level, from Lance Corporal equivalent up, are absolutely incredibly important if we're going to achieve our roles, particularly in technical domains like the ones that I'm privileged to lead. more than ever. And that strategy is demanding us as an ADF to work as that integrated force. I like a saying, and I stole it from Chief of Army General Simon Stewart: if you're zero in one domain, you're zero in all. And as I said before, it's not about either or, it's about that end. And so it's critical that we build those 5 domains worth of talent, that we give them the best technology, the best capabilities, the best education and the best training. And that is not going to come from the CERCAT 7 workforce. Part of it will, maybe a lot of it will. But equally, a lot of it comes from reservists and from industry and from organisations who work together as a team. I guess it goes without saying that if we don't do that, we make ourselves more vulnerable. So looking to the future, let me just talk about space and cyber a little bit more. As I said, space will play an increasingly important role. I think about assured precision navigation timing, I think about satellite communications, I think about intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, I think about weather, I think about forecasting, I think about space control, space domain awareness, missile warning. We do all of that inside space, inside the Department of Defence, and it's exciting. We have everything from people from the Bureau of Meteorology working in our teams to young men and women who we train predominantly with the US, who are doing amazing things. But it's also becoming increasingly contested in a congested domain, and it's kind of like a throwaway line. Remember years ago, they used to say VUCA, volatile, uncertain, what is it? Complex, yeah. Anyway, contested and congested is the new buzz for us in our domains. But it's, it's important for us that we realise that actors will seek to exploit vulnerabilities that we have, and that we have to be at the head of the game as well. It's congested because there are more launches, hopefully in Australia soon, more satellites, newer technology. The turnover to turn things up in the sky is just incredible. And I think Joint Project 9102, my favourite project inside space, is going in a different direction for the very reason that technology and threat and the reduced cost to get a proliferated system out there, multi-orbit, much more resilient, that's exciting. But we don't do it with just the CERCAT 7 workforce, we do it with everybody, helping us with that knowledge and experience. So we're investing in and we're developing our space capabilities to ensure that we can operate securely and effectively as part of those 5 domains. In terms of the combination of a strong space domain and a diverse and skilled professional workforce, I can tell you an exciting amount of news that on the 8th of September, the Defence Force Remuneration Tribunal is going to announce the creation of 2 new trades in the Australian Defence Force: Space Operations Officers and Space Specialists. Now, I hope in the future they'll be called Space Warfare Officers and Space Warfare Specialists, but because we're an operational domain at the moment, we can't. We have units in Adelaide, First Space Surveillance Unit, that does space domain awareness, joint commercial operations, as well as missile warning. We have a unit in Kabbalah, 74 Squadron, that does space control, think space electronic warfare. We are creating a satellite communications unit to divorce part of the responsibilities out at HMAS Harmon so that they'll manage the transponders and we'll manage the capacity so that Chief of Joint Operations has what he needs when he needs. And we have the Australian Space Operations Centre within the Space Component Command out at JOC. Really exciting. So lots of good units, not a lot of people, 300, but it's a start. Let's go on to cyber. Within the cyber domain, I would argue we are in conflict now. I don't know if any of you have ever been hacked. If I went to your home routers right now, I'm pretty sure I could find some of them that are still set on the original Cisco router password. You are vulnerable. You'll notice now when you log on to the DPN, we make you take your DCAC off. It comes up with that big warning. There's a reason for that, because it makes us vulnerable. It's a warfighting domain where the front line is constantly shifting for us across cyberspace and across the electromagnetic spectrum. And we say that new threats lurk around every digital corner. But, it's very real, and you've only got to see some of the reporting to understand what the risks are. I had the privilege of speaking in Singapore a few weeks ago at their Defence Information Service symposium, And on that day, Singapore had a major cyber breach, and for the first time in their history, their minister got up and put to account where it came from in China. I've never seen that before with our Singaporeans, our friends, and to show that even they have those vulnerabilities, to think that we don't is exceptionally naive. Our cyber domain and our cyber terrain is extraordinarily vast, it's complex, and it operates as a system to allow us to defend and to deter any adversaries. It's not physically demarcated like the other 4 domains, and the effects that move across it at the speed of light, no other military domain effect travels at that rate or can travel and be accessible to everybody. It's a really exciting part of our organisation. And the terrain includes our networks, our mission systems and our weapons platforms, but equally and probably more importantly, it also includes our people and the processes that support them. And I've got a task on me from government to uplift our cyber security for the Australian Defence Organisation. And it is not an inconsequential task, and it takes a lot of money. It's not just us putting some sensors on our networks, it's actually educating every single person in our organisation, as well as doing those other things to be able to protect and defend our systems. So cyber's already having an outsized impact, but there's obviously much more that we can do. It costs money though, I'll say as well, and we know that for any of you that work in this industry, particularly externally. But we have to be able to improve our posture if we're going to be efficient and effective, but also credible as an Australian Defence Force. And as I said earlier, it means nothing without people. And again, unlike the space workforce, which goes live on the 8th of September, our cyber workforce has already gone live. We went through the Defence Force Remuneration Tribunal in July, and we now have space warfare officers and space warfare specialists in the Australian Defence Force. And what we did, and I think this is exceptionally clever of the team that pulled it together, is that rather than just doing pay and rank-based pay, we aligned it similar to how we introduced the aviation officer pay scale, and all of our troops up to our officers are on skill-based pay. And that's how we will hopefully compete a little bit with industry to show that we can pay them a little bit more, or allow people the choice to stay on tools and pay them the more specialist they become, or if they choose to, they can progress through the ranks and attempt to command some of our units. In terms of units, we have all of the cyber defensive units have now transferred into Joint Capabilities Group last year when we stood up Cyber Command. So Fleet Cyber Unit in Sydney, 138 Signal Squadron in Melbourne, and 462 Squadron out of Adelaide, as well as a joint cyber unit here in Canberra that works out at Harmon. Those organisations, as well as a number of men and women that we have employed within the Australian Signals Directorate, are working every day to do cyber-related activities. We also, as I said earlier, we have a Joint Training Command. You may know it as the Defence Command Support Training Centre, as it was known in the past. DCSTC transitioned to the Joint Capabilities Group in January this year. We renamed it Joint Training Command. It's still based in Melbourne, and we've also added a school and given them the Defence School of Space and Cyber, which is out at Harmon as well. So there's exciting things happening across the 2 domains. But let's now move it on to the reserves in particular. We've done a lot of work, and John Molnar's not here today, unfortunately. He's now come on board through CPERS's organisation to do a body of work, but that is complementary to work that is already ongoing within the group and has been ongoing for some years. There's some similarities and there's also some differences, but we will work together to merge them as we go forward. So we did an extensive review of how the UK Cyber Reserve works. So our full-time cyber workforce was copied and aligned to the US model, but our reserve model is actually aligned to the UK model, which has been in operation for more than a decade. And we've been able to build on their model to maximise what we hope will give us across the ADF total workforce system. And I welcome some questions on that, on how we achieve that going forward. But unlike the UK, where integration's constrained by individual service characteristics, I don't have that problem because they've been transferred into our group. And as long as I can assure my service chief peers that we're there to support all 5 domains, they're very comfortable, which is a good place to be. So work on the Cyber Reserve Force as part of the strategic review into the ADF reserves has only just commenced in February this year. But the pace of change and the work that they've already done, is there anyone here that's in that team? It's pretty incredible, and I thank you for what you're doing. It's really important what we're doing going forward, and it reflects to me the urgency of what we're trying to achieve with the capability. So the Cyber Reserve Force is already emerging as that transformational ADF reserve model, and I think it'll be applicable across more than the cyber domain going forward. It's built on having 3 integrated components, a joint cyber advisory team, so a strategic advisory body of national level experts, a joint specialist reserve integration cell, so a coordination hub to pull those threads and to provide those opportunities, and then Cyber Reserve Force elements like a bench of highly skilled practitioners. Now let me give you an example of one, not part of this, that I did when I first came into the job, which shows you what good could look like. And this is an extreme model, so please don't all come up and ask for a 1-star posting. So I met a gentleman, his name was Ben Staunton. I don't know if anyone knows Ben in the room. Ben and I worked together a few years ago. He's had just over 3 decades of experience at ASD. He was a Band 3 when he retired from the public service after over 30 years of service. There's nothing he doesn't know about space and cyber or SIGINT or EW or adversaries that wouldn't, I could work for another 50 years and not be at the level he is at. He came and saw me. He said, retiring, still available for some work. If you'd like me, just let me know. And I went and saw CDF and I said, this guy is remarkable. How do we bring him in? And he said, offer him a reserve appointment. Any service, you work it out. So I had him over for morning tea and I said to him, all right, would you like to come into the ADF? He goes, you're funny, public servant, Band 3, never served a day in his life. He went to Naval College. He's now a Commodore in the Royal Australian Naval Reserves. He's just finished leading an expert external advisory panel for us on a major SATCOM project to give assurances to government that we're on the right path. He is an example of what good looks like for part of this going forward. I've already had people ask me 1-stars. He is an exception to the rule. I wish I could bring everyone in as a 1-star. But anyway, I just think there's goodness going out there. But we need to have a robust system around us to bring people in. I think, in terms of going forward with the reserve space workforce model, it's a little bit more problematic. It's easier with cyber because of some of the technical trades, but it's not insurmountable for us, and we're working through that now. I haven't had anyone come in and want to be a star rank or do any of those things, because all of the companies here in Australia at the moment are vying for all of our projects. And so I don't think they want to exclude themselves from being incorporated into some of the opportunities. But because of this highly technical and limited size of that broader civil space, there are options, and we will look to work with them in any way. So we currently have 421 established reservist positions doing a wide range of work just in space and cyber, as well as a whole bunch of others that are doing work across logistics, national support, administration, operations, and the like. And I'm really proud of working with all of them and the work that we all do together. Our people are our greatest capability. I welcome any questions you have. Thanks very much.
Thanks, General. Great.
Welcome.
So I'll direct some questions from the floor and then I'll go to the screen and see whether we've got some online. Peter Ruckamate.
I'd just like to get a response. At the moment, I'll speak specifically about cyber, but it applies to other domains as well. The composition for staff and particular expertise, as you just described with the example, is pretty intense out there in the industry. What sorts of projects or options are you looking at to not recruit people from industry, but to start cooperating with industry? Because one of the potential values to somebody in the cyber workforce is not going to be financial.
It's not for anyone in Circuit 7 either.
Admittedly, but people in the civil cyber workforce
are already pretty well remunerated, but there are some very great advantages to people who've worked in that environment to work across environments, and in fact that's being delivered in the industry at the moment by pirating people backwards and forwards between many of the IST companies. The example would be Telstra. We're losing something like 30% of our cyber workforce every 3 months and pirating a similar amount of workforce out of other industries at the same time. So a response to how defence is integrating itself into that.
Thanks for your question. So, I mean, none of us, whether we're part-time or full-time, join the ADF for any financial remuneration. What we join for is purpose and mission, which we get every day. And I guess the difference that we can offer in the space and cyber domains is a PV clearance sponsored by the ADF, as long as they do full-time or part-time work forever, which is lucrative for their other careers. ServOps-D, the new ServOps-D bracket, is a great opportunity for us. So if we have someone that starts off full-time and then they want to go and have a career with Telstra, they can do 1 week with us, 1 week with them and keep alternating. In terms of, whether or not people are leaving for money, I'm sure they do. That's a family decision. I fully respect that. I respect anyone who serves 1 day or 40 years. So I don't mind that. I liken us, and I think I said this in the break, I liken us to the US Marine Corps. They rotate 75% of their workforce every 4 years. Maybe we will too. But as long as that door is left open and they feel valued and empowered to come back and work with us, we will welcome them with open arms. I'm more interested in the quality line than the quantity line. I would much rather have a smaller ADF with the right people who are here for the right reasons. But I haven't met any people who tell me that they're leaving because they hate the job. They're just making choices, whether it's geographic stability for their family, because they've been given an offer and they can make a difference. If you're a CISO in our organisation and you get offered to be a CISO of a major organisation out there, and you know it's going to make them more secure and they've got to plug back into defence or national security, I'd jump at it too if I had the technical ability. But it's just about managing everyone and giving them opportunities. Yeah.
Any other questions? I'll just circulate the mic so the online group can hear.
G'day, ma'am. Andrew Butler. I've just come from the Core Signals Core Conference in Melbourne over 2 days, where the main topic of conversation was the employment category review. I think potentially a missed opportunity, and you'll be briefed on this more fully. Focus was very much on the current existing trades. Given cyber and the comments from Brigadier Alcomade, the opportunity to leverage industry and civilian competencies, I think, is potentially something we're not leveraging fully. So, two-part question. What are we doing to try and leverage those competencies to bring people back into reserve? Because the other work that I do, obviously, in the Signals Association, which you're familiar with, I get a lot of people asking me, how can we contribute back into the ADF? The problem is the pipeline for recruitment is somewhere between 8 to 12 months, and there is no recognition for current competency. So they've basically got to go to Kapuka. Now, I've got CISOs, ITOs, people that are saying, I want to contribute. Is there a plan or is there a way that we can try and fast track that? Thank you.
Yeah, so the specialist trades of space and cyber are being given a different entry into the ADF. It's like the specialist service officer pathway, so a shorter couple of weeks depending on the service. Air Force are really mature in this already, so where we need to get people in quickly, we're using them. Navy's been very good and allowing us to do a 2-week course at Naval College. And with Army, with the undergoing review into training, we just have to help to let that settle first in terms of the modularised training approach. But we will be bringing people in shorter. I always feel defensive for poor old DFR and CPERS's organisation. They're working really hard to shorten things. Not everyone is taking a year to get in. Some are getting in quite quickly, but we still have to do better, which we're trying to collectively as a leadership team empower and support them to achieve that. But it'll get better. But we will be able to bring those sorts of people in under that cyber reserve model that I spoke about that Colonel Molnar and his team are getting. Those people will be targeted and they will be coming in quickly in short time, won't they? Yep, I'm getting the nods from the background, from the doers. Yeah,
Thanks,
that's
General. We have one question. Rob, do you want to go first, and then I'll turn to the online question.
Good morning, Ma'am. Rob Lording. The question is sort of an extension of that, which is what's being done around skills recognition to make sure that that doesn't inhibit the pathway, but also where are you working in terms of trying to build the broader set of skills, not just for defence,
Yeah.
but across.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't answer the second part. I apologise for that. So last time I looked, we set the business rules for our Defence Force. So somebody who says you've got to have this, and this, well, that might be all right for a Defence Force some decades ago. It's not going to meet the needs for our space and cyber professionals. So we own the enlistment process. We own the processes to do recognition of prior learning. You know, it's like when we used to do lateral transfers and we'd bring somebody over from the British Armed Forces in particular, we'd bust them back a rank or two. You know, why? I mean, I'm happy to bust them back if we're full at the rank that they were at and they want to join our Defence Force, but not everyone's going to come in as a senior rank. You know, when I was a digger at a lieutenant at 8 Sig Regiment, my first posting out of Duntroon, I went to a reserve unit. There was a corporal in one of the squadrons who was the New South Wales CEO of Telstra, or Telecom as it was in those days. He just wanted to be hands-on and do something. So not everyone's going to come in at a senior level. So if they're happy to do that, we can just employ them. And all of our units are integrated. We don't have reserve units and regular units inside Space and Cyber, and nor will we ever. Fully integrated. We have to work on it. If there's roadblocks, tell one of us, because I'm not hearing it at the moment, and I'm seeing people trickle in quite regularly at the moment. Lots of good people from industry as well.
And I think as well, Pete, I know I'll come to you in a moment, now that I recognise the lilac suit. And part of Doug Laidlaw may touch on this, the accelerated pathway recommendation that's in the reserve review talks about capturing people's skill sets in an appropriate way as they come in, so that we're not finding out about things after the event, that we're harnessing their capabilities from day dot as they come in, and we're getting them through that service agnostic accelerated pathway. So there is scope there to do some of those things. Peter.
Group Captain Pete Davis, I suppose similar conversation with what the other two folks have spoken about. Servant D is the opportunity here.
Yeah, it is.
And you did touch on it, so that's strategic partnership to keep people in the cyber industry, but move them between defence and outside as we go on. So that is the answer. And quite happy to come and talk to you about it any time.
Yep.
I am the policy group.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I did get briefed on ServUp-D. And we've been talking. So in career management, we have a cyber and space element as well, career management element. Group Captain Daz Dolan and others. They are doing this every day, and they are working really hard to make sure that people are joining us. So we're just going to continue the path forward. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. And I think the question I've got here online is very similar to that. Could ServUp-D be effectively used in cyber and space? Has cross-pollination of skills for state infrastructure and industry been considered for CERCATs 7 and 5? I think we've pretty much covered that.
Yeah, I think you can't put a frame around what the future member of space or cyber domains are going to look like in the future. They're going to be a little bit of everything. And that's a richness, a real richness in who we are. We went to the Ad for Open Day. We created some little QR codes, little gimmicks for kids. 2,700 cards got handed out. We are being inundated with people wanting to come and work in this area. We have to create a good foundation for them to come in, and we can't accept them all. We actually don't have enough positions. So we're going to be selective. And I think it's goodness. There's richness in it. But there's really smart people out there.
Yeah.
I will retire and they will take it over. Seriously, they're running. They're doing amazing work.
Any other questions from the floor? Yes, Chris Grigsby. Chris, I'll just throw you the mic. Well, not literally, but I'm not that good at the throw.
I played netball. Here you go.
Yeah, just a quick one, mainly on the big scene of warfare. I understand that China and Russia are really moving fast to conduct warfare in space, attacking satellites, which would have a huge impact on defence forces to be able to, control everything. Is this sort of on the radar for Australia?
Yes.
Ma'am?
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, it certainly is. Lots of countries around the globe are doing things in space. Yeah. And cyber. Yeah. And not just militaries.
Final one. Speak up.
Maybe a little bit of a loaded question. That is, in relation to sort of if you look in front of a day, see usually it's kind of stereotyping with the average person when you see it's in the space inside the domain. They're usually not leaning towards wanting to meet the fitness standards yet, or sort of wear the uniform and do the other bit coincide with them. Is there any consideration for this?
Yeah, so we've talked about it. We've talked about man buns and people coming in and tracky dacks living in basements and stuff. But to be honest with you, the quality and the number of people coming in are happy to meet the standards and are happy to look just like us. If there's the right person who is a super unicorn, I'll take them in any capacity to bring them into either the ADF or the APS. We will work together with them. But we haven't yet had to create that. And, you know, the only thing that counts, and when I was the Forces Commander, I used to ask Chief of Army about this, about when we'd get asked about people that were a bit on the spectrum, and he would say to me, do they live to Defence's values? And I say, yes, they do. He goes, I don't care then. So, you know, it's a really strong message to me now as a peer of his when I'm bringing people in and we're putting them in Army, Air Force or Navy uniforms, which is what we're going to do forever. We're not creating our own version of Guardians or anything like that. But they need to adhere and live up to Defence's values. And as long as they do that, I don't care if they can't pass a BFA. I do care if they don't try to be fit and motivated. But those that will need to deploy forward, and there will be a portion, they must achieve everything. And there will be no waivers for anybody. But at the moment, they're all coming in quite happily and they're all doing it all. But we're not going to turn a guy that's never run or played sport or anything and then make them do a combat fitness assessment or a PESA of any great level. We'll just break them. I'm not interested in their body, I'm interested in their minds. Yep. Yep.
Fantastic. Any other questions? Two more.
Oh, sorry.
One more. We might cap it at one, I think,
Thank you.
if you don't mind.
No.
Well, speaking from someone who knows very little about it, how do you deal with someone like Musk with his Starlink things? And I'm sure many other countries are thinking about this. Some sort of rogue operator who, you know, you haven't got control of in any sort of national way.
Yeah.
Just a loose question, but
No, it
I'd
is
be interested in
it's
how
a
you
good
think about
question
it.
though. Reliance on industry, when you can't guarantee assurance of use at a time and place of our choosing, when we put ourselves in a position where we have equipment which we may or may not have access to and we become reliant on that. I mean, there are rational and irrational players all over the place. Some of them are presidents and prime ministers, dare I say, in some countries that I'm not going to talk to. But it's a very valid question. But you know, this is why we're looking for a multi-orbital resilient satellite communication system that isn't reliant on just one thing like SpaceX or another company, that may be sovereign, may be part of allies and partners, may be commercial opportunities with other countries. We need a little bit of everything. But I've got to tell you, he is so far ahead of everyone else in terms of technology though, and he is on the spectrum, but gosh, his company's impressive. So if it's cheaper, and we'll do a little bit of that as well, we'll use all of the above, if it helps us to be the most lethal and survivable ADF. Yeah. He's interesting, isn't he? Yeah. Yeah. I'm being polite. Well, he did that in the Ukraine. He did that in the Ukraine. And I have to tell you, the world opened its eyes up when he did that. I don't think people expected that to happen. But, you know, I guess for any lawyers in the room, contractual obligations are really important to get them right so that they can't turn off. But anyway, it's fascinating. Hey, thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak with you all. Good luck for the rest of the meeting.
Thanks, General.
Yeah, thank
Fantastic.
you. Yeah.